This is the first of two lectures. The first is on organization and time management, and the second one will be on record keeping. So we'll talk a little bit about the role of the director, how just some tips and techniques for organization, time management, and then self-care as well. We do have just a lot of duties and responsibilities, not only to our staff, but to the parents and families and to the children and to a wide range of systems around us. So most of us also operate within licensing. We also might be a church-run facility and we have to interact with the church community and the pastor. State funded, we have large agencies around us, and we might be part of like a structure with human resources and managers above you, managers below you. So we do have a lot of people that we have to answer to in a daily manner, in addition to all of the paperwork that comes with all of the people. So time management, organization are vitally important, and everybody really does have their own system in which to do this. My system probably looks a little bit different than yours, and it is probably a struggle that we all face as well. So I'm just going to talk about some general issues, things you should be aware of when you're setting up systems, and some things that students have told me from past classes that have really helped them. So in addition to being a manager and supervisor, which has been a lot of the focus of this class, you're also a mediator between staff and families, and and you just have a lot of counseling and mediating. You also protect children as far as child abuse. You're a supporter of others and others' goals. So supporting staff that maybe want to become a site supervisor and move on from you. Or want to get a master teacher permit. We want to support our staff always, even if that means, growing wings and leaving our program. We also have responsibilities to other agencies. It is fairly rare that you don't have any other contacts with any other people. Even if you're FCC, you might be within a network, or you might be state subsidized or be part of the food program. So we do have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of paperwork that we have to provide to a lot of different agencies, licensing, the federal government, the state government, and the county as well. And then once we've done all of that on a daily basis, we're also a leader who has a vision and goals and long-term goals that they want to see within their program as well. So how do we balance all of that? Your responsibilities, your roles, your duties, the expectations others have on you, and the expectations you have for yourself. How do you prioritize being in the office and record keeping and keeping the systems moving? And then also, how do you keep the classrooms and be in the classrooms and supervise other people and check in with families and see how children are doing? That's a tremendous amount. So once again, it is really individual to you. And that's not to say that bigger or smaller means less or more work. Typically in bigger programs, when I talk about a program that had 350 children, well, there was 2 of my position, 2 directors, 2 kitchen staff. I mean, we were almost a double essentially. We were kind of 2 wings. We were united by a program director, but we actually kind of had 2 buildings that were semi-connected. So that's how we were kind of able to do that. In a smaller program, yeah, we only had 25 to 30 families, but I was the only director. I had 2 teachers that had some administration classes, so I could, leave and not be there for 10 to 11 hours a day, although I often was. But I was the only management. There was no assistant director. So yeah, the families were smaller, but I had a lot more like daily responsibilities as well. So it's individual to the program and what type of program you run, and how you are as a manager, how you are and your personality style. Some people, their desks and office looks like a tornado came through, but they kind of know where everything is in this kind of sloppy looking system, and that works fine for them. Other people love the color coded and having everything written down. It's totally individual to you as a manager, but you also have to take into effect that you work with staff members. And so you're going to come with a diverse personality styles, learning styles. So you do have to find a way that works with other people, so that you can communicate how you're going to manage things, and they're going to communicate how they manage their classrooms, and you guys will have to mediate some kind of common ground as well. But You are the manager as well. You have expectations for staff, and they need to understand what it is. So if you have very clear expectations about lesson plans, when they're done, when you see them, where they will be put, that helps staff understand what is needed from them. And then it becomes a rule or a procedure, and it can be easier. So it is good to value what your staff is doing as far as their own classroom management and their own classroom organization. But typically people like to know what to do and when to do it, especially at work, so that they can do it correctly, because, you know, this is their employment and their job and their livelihood, and they have an investment in doing it well. I love a task list, and I'm going to move my head so that you can actually see it. So this is a big task list. So typically I like to break it down by role or duty, or in sections as well. So this one is one that I found on Pinterest. So there's financial area, a licensing area, staff area, communications area, and marketing as well. And then I have staff responsible. This is great if you have a management team, if you have an assistant director and an admin assistant, a site supervisor, or you are the program director and you are telling your site supervisors what to do and when to do it. So some of this, like supply ordering and food orders, would be like your kitchen staff. So it would be Lisa, and she's kitchen staff, and she does it by the 15th of every month. And then you check it for compliance, or you order what she needs. Input staff payroll was not my strong point, I've got to say. That was typically my assistant directors. I knew how to do it, but I typically had to do it with an admin assistant because there was always too many buttons to push, and it was not my favorite. So it was either like Johnny and then like me, but Johnny always did it by the 1st or the 30th or whatever it was, and our admin assistant would support that as well. Licensing, when do we need to have licensing updates? When are physicals that need to be due? Fire drills, emergency plans. And I like this because you could easily recreate that, because there's a lot more with licensing that you probably need to keep track of. It would probably be another spreadsheet as well, as far as all of your staff records that need to be done. And then going into staff, like when are you going to do interviews? When do you do training? You could also put who's going to do the monthly staff meetings. Typically, if there was another staff person, I would break those up. So we would have a month break. We always attended them as a management team, but like January would be me, February would be the assistant director, March would be me, April would be her. So we had a little bit of a break in preparing the agendas, and then just sharing the duty in addition to staff hearing both of us talk. Then communications, bulletin boards, if you control that. I did not control that. That was up to my staff. I would only interfere if I felt that it didn't look good or wasn't inappropriate. And I shared my vision, which is I don't like holidays, and holidays were not part of the state-funded program like Christmas and things like that. But I also didn't do seasonal as well, like November, you know, or you could do it, but it would be for many months. So November wouldn't just be Thanksgiving. Just in order to keep everything fresh, so that if it's already December and you haven't taken down your November one, that may be stressful in the classroom. So it would always kind of support staff in wanting to keep bulletin boards more neutral, so that if things were happening in the classroom, the bulletin board wasn't something else that you had to add to your classroom list of things to do. But then newsletters, calendars, so breaking it down by who's responsible, what their title is, and when it's going to happen, especially things that are regularly occurring, like food, fire, paperwork. Those types of things always happen, and typically always happen in a month. So breaking it down so that each person has a duty to do is great. And once again, this image is on our Pinterest page, but the image is from the Child Care Lounge. Okay, so working with staff. So how do you communicate with them? And you'll have to decide this. It is a relationship. I do always prefer to have things verbally told to me, especially if it's a big issue. I want to know soon after happening, or as it's happening, or right after the parent leaves, whatever it is. Or if a child is, really having challenging behaviors, I want to be down in the classroom to support that as I can. I typically can't come out of a licensing meeting or an interview. So how do we kind of figure this out? So, you know, becoming a parent and then having large programs, you know, and the whole mommy brain, pregnant brain was really real for me, especially pregnant brain. I started writing everything down, somewhat similar to this. It started with just Post-its. You know, I was pregnant with twins, working at a gigantic 350 child center, and I would finish my day with like 50 Post-it notes because staff would tell me something, and it used to be something I could remember and then do, and it would be like, okay, you got to write me a Post-it note. But then I had all of these Post-it notes, and I would like redo tasks that I had already. It was not working for me, so I kind of put something like this up. So it kind of had like new families, general questions. We didn't have to do a lot with tuition. And that was not, there was a financial department that handled that. So it wasn't about this one, but it was more like challenging behaviors, and I had one for special needs. So then I would try to either have staff sign up themselves, like I am concerned about, or I would write this down if I didn't want them seeing what other staff had written, and then I could just cross it out. So a way to communicate, you could use this very easily with just a classroom, or you could keep a running list of communication and daily tasks and family and child and staff issues on your desk, somewhat similar to that. Or you could have one with just your management team, what you guys are sharing and understanding. Just setting up something so that you can remember and you can keep an eye on the like tasks, challenging behaviors, parents who are not paying the tuition when they're supposed to, or just general things that happen and come up in classrooms specifically. FCC, I think I've shared, I've really only subbed in an FCC. I have never run my own, but I have been in quite a few and visited quite a few, and this is a very typical sign-in station. Everything that you would kind of need is either as you enter into the actual room or you enter into the house or whatever entryway that you have. And it's a great way. And Tom Copeland and the Creative Curriculum, there's a creative curriculum for in-home. They are both fantastic resources. The Creative Curriculum that I have for in-home is from like the late 80s, but it's still great. It still has examples like this. So even though FCCs typically have less children and less staff, it doesn't mean that you need to be any less organized. You are typically the one running your program. You might have someone helping or assisting, but you need to combine classroom management and director management at all times because you do both jobs all of the time. So typically a sign-in station where you have all the information for the parents, including their personal reports, and then you just have something like this where you have your paper and your accident reports, and you have your meal program and your USDA, and you're able to communicate with what's happening with parents as well. That in addition to maybe an app-based communication system with the parents. I would get away from texting, and I'm so glad that we have text. And it was helpful, but maybe to set up those boundaries that you probably need as like a human and a mom, not letting them text you at midnight, which I've heard from my FCC people that boundaries can really easily be blurred, and parents can sometimes take a bit of advantage as well. So kind of using those bright wheel or things like that, that parents can still have communication, but it's not linked to your actual phone or phone number, or having a separate phone for your work can be really great as well. Smartphones are coming down in cost, or you can kind of get dumber phones that still have the use of it, or you could even use an iPad, but then you kind of have that stop at the end of the day, that it can stay in the room. The iPad or the work phone can stay in the work room, and at 7 when you're done, you can go and you can join your family and have a little bit of a private life as well. Okay, so we're gonna go into time management as well. How do you prioritize what gets done? You know, I probably shouldn't be lecturing about this. It's something that I struggle with, teaching at many different colleges and universities, knowing like what's going to happen tomorrow that I need to have done, what's the most important grading that I need to do, how do I prioritize it, in addition to being, you know, a human being with volunteer positions and, you know, a wife and mom. It's a lot. It's totally a lot. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but I have learned a couple of things. When possible, and this is not always possible, arrive to school before opening, or stay after closing. So in programs where you have a management team, you can't do this. When I had that smaller program, we were open 7 to 5. I couldn't be there the entire day plus stay later and be there, stay later and come in earlier. That was going to be too long of a day. But with a management team, I could say, okay, I'm going to start work at 5:30 and I'm going to work till 3. And at 5:30, we don't open until 6:30. So that gives me an hour of work every day. Or I'm going to stay after closing. I'm going to come in at 10 every day because you've had it in the morning, but I'm going to stay till 7 and we close at 6. And that's going to let me have that hour of time to return phone calls that I need to do the record keeping, all the stuff that I need to take out the teachers, I need to take out the children, and they just need to focus on the business aspect or the budget aspect or the, time aspect of the work that we do. Sometimes that doesn't work though. So in some programs, I would schedule 1 day a month or a week for like sporadic duties. So this would be, there's no interviews on the books. I have no meetings with other people. Like that day would like be blocked out in everybody's calendar. I would still come to work, but I would try to shut my door and I would try to sit down and I would focus on all of the things that I've talked about, like the budget and the record keeping and the licensing and making those phone calls that I just haven't gotten to. Whatever it was, I would try to block out 1 day when I couldn't either come in early or leave later. Also prioritizing sharing duties. If the director can shut her door and work on a report and ordering, then the other person can handle classroom duties, talking to parents, interviewing, something like that, or vice versa. And then also we do have technology. Is technology helping us? Is it hindering us? There are great shared Google Calendars have been amazing. It's a great way to keep track of what your staff needs to do, what you need to do. You can have one with each classroom team or mentor teachers. There are ways that we can support each other. Typically, like a Google site as well can be really helpful where you have all the things that a classroom needs so that they're not asking you, oh, can you make a copy of that lesson plan for me again? No, you have it on your own Google site, print it from your own computer and print it in your classroom, then you have it. You're not needing to ask me to spend 10 minutes printing something for you. Delegate. So is this something that a mentor teacher can do? If it's just sign this about brushing your teeth or sign this about reminding you about family style dining, can a mentor teacher train somebody on that? Is that her wheelhouse? Like, I've had mentor teachers that know Reggio 5,000 times better than I will ever know it. It is their passion in life. They do not want to leave the classroom. They don't ever want to stop doing it. Why would I train somebody on Reggio when I don't have that passion, knowledge, or ability? I'm going to have my mentor teacher do it. Same with classroom teams. If they are fantastic and are known in the school for being great at one area, like playground supervision and great activities, have them support the other people in the center in doing something that they are known for being great in. And then also, what can your assistant or assistant director, if you're lucky enough to have one, how are they there to help you? They should probably have separate duties that they handle each month. You need to know what it is and keep an eye on it, but maybe they are the payroll and scheduling person. That's how I did it. Those are not my areas of expertise. I am not strong in that. I knew that I had to look it over, and I was the final paycheck on the final signature on the paycheck, as it were. But that was her strength, and so we did it that way. And then contractors and consultants, if you have to clean your classrooms yourselves, I've worked in centers like that, then you have to. But also, like, having somebody come in to do your carpets or your windows outside or pressure wash, those are things that you can probably take off your plate and your staff's plate as well. And then remove things. There are some preschools that have removed the food program. It is not something that they want to do. They do not want to spend the time and energy, even though it might be a cost saving to them. They have then put it on the parents. So the parents bring in a snack and lunch for their child. It's typically in like part day programs, or my daughter's Montessori was like this. Snack was provided, but we brought in the lunch every day. So she removed from her plate the food program. It's totally up to you and your program what you might want to remove. Also, age groups. I've seen infant and toddler can be increasingly hard to do, and it was not worth the hassle. And then I have seen programs just go to infant and toddler because it brings in more money. And when you're specializing in one age, it can be a little bit easier than doing all the ages. I mean, 0 to 12 was a really hard thing to do, and that a 12-year-old is really different than a 6-week-old. Of course, we have different classrooms, different staff, but having to keep track of all of the developmental things that are happening in each class in addition to all amount of staff. So some people like to specialize as well. Okay, so typically in time management, we're always doing this in our head. What do I have to do? What is due by the end of today? What do I have to have for our funding body by tomorrow? I need to, budget by this date, something like that. And then what can I always be interrupted for? And that was always child abuse or very serious parent issues. That was, even if I was in an interview or if licensing was here and I was in an interview, then I can be interrupted. So if I'm in an interview and child abuse happens, if I'm in an interview and licensing comes and I'm in an interview or a meeting, and there's a very serious issue with the parent, you can always walk in and I can stop my meeting or my interview. Other than that, I want to know as soon as I'm done and I start another task about most issues. But also, if it is just a small thing, there can be check-ins that you have weekly with the classroom. Typically nap time, even though it might be your lunchtime, it might be a good time to go and check in with your classroom teams, see how they're doing. Do they feel supported? How is little Johnny with the challenging behavior? Has that gotten any better? Has mom been responsive to your plan? And then just goals. What do they want to do with their life? Do they want to go back to school? Do they want to become a master teacher? And then how do they like the direction of the school? Generally just a free-ranging conversation, and but staff like the check-ins as well, and that hopefully will bring up some information that you need to know about your classrooms and things that they might need support with as well. So then self-care, I do think that we don't do this. I've struggled with this myself. We have so many things to do. I mean, this entire PowerPoint has been all of the duties that you have to do, and there's basically not enough time in a work day of whatever length in order to do all of the things that you're going to need to do in your center. So you have to prioritize what's the most important thing to do, and you do have to prioritize yourself. It's very easy in this field, teaching in particular, to not take care of yourself. And I think in a lot of the world, we consider self-care to be like buying something for yourself or taking a bubble bath. And those things are really nice, and that can be a way that we show love for ourselves. But I also think it is the hard thing, and I've seen so many times that people in this industry don't go and do the things that they need to take care of themselves. They don't go to the dentist even though their tooth hurts. They don't get a mammogram even though there's a history of breast cancer in their family. They don't go talk to the doctor when they've been feeling consistently sad for a really long time and it's hard to go to work every day. Those are the things that we have to do. We have to call the doctor, or we have to call the dentist or the therapist, or we need to talk to somebody about why you're struggling. We have to do that hard thing, not the easy thing of taking a bubble bath, which I love a bubble bath. I'll take one every day if I could. It is a way that I take care of myself. But I also have to take care of the hard things in my life. And for me, it's the dentist. I'm not a fan of the dentist, but I know that I'm taking care of my life when I used to just send my kids like, oh, it's really important that my kids see the dentist. But I would never go, probably because I was afraid, but it was also really easy to say that I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Well, I have really crappy teeth. Everybody in my life on my dad's side has dentures, and I would really like to not have dentures at 50 like them. I'd like to have, fairly good teeth. So when I have a dentist appointment that I go to and I take care of my teeth, that's how I'm showing myself that I care about myself and I'm going to take care of my own health and prioritize my own health. How can you do that? I mean, you're allowed to go to your kids' events. You're allowed to leave work to do that. You're allowed to leave your center to go to lunch. It might feel really, really hard. And if you're the only person, you need to have those teachers who have administrative units so that you can leave the center and go to a meeting or grab a burrito, or more importantly, do that hard thing of seeing a therapist or going to the doctor or the dentist. So in conclusion, we have so many roles. We have so many responsibilities. We have so many people that we have to check in with. And balancing that is so, so hard to do. Thinking about it, taking a step back or above and looking down or from a distance at all of the work and how you can prioritize it, how you can delegate it, how you can remove it, how you can set up a system around it in order to change it is going to be so important for you to explore on your own, because we all are individuals with individual personality styles and individual programs. So how can you do all of those things for yourself, your staff, and your program? All right, I will see you guys in the next lecture.